Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to talk about, well, the title is Era 3. It says Era 3, but I'm going to actually incorporate the wider game in this one because it is relevant. Now, I have been wanting to make this video for probably 2-3 weeks now, and I've just come back to the game after a 2-week break. I took a relatively, I suppose, late summer holiday. I didn't play the game. In the 2 weeks I was off, I probably played 4 battles. So, essentially, I wasn't really playing. I wasn't engaged with what was happening with the game. I totally disconnected from everything. And I thought that in that time, the issues that I had in mind before this break would iron themselves out and maybe go away. Now I've come back and I've started playing Era 3 again, and I've noticed that, well, these issues are still here, and that's a problem in my mind. So what I'll do, I'll break these things down. For those of you that are familiar with Era 3, you probably already know what I'm going to say. This year, in the last 6 months or so, Wargaming have introduced a series of premiums. We have the Wiesel, that was roughly 6 months ago. We have the Object 292, and we have the Object 477. Now, it's not unusual for Wargaming to introduce premiums, but what is unusual, and this is where the wider game comes in, is Wargaming seem to be on a how ridiculous can we get streak. It started with the Taran. We then had the AVRE, the AVRE, tier 10. We had the Wiesel. Then we had the Object 292. One of the blighters is right there. And then we got the Object 477. So that is, and if I've missed any, add them in the comments below. But that's five premium tanks that have come into the game, all of which are just completely outside of what is expected from the balance for the game, I suppose is what you could call it. I'm not a World War II player, but I did play the Taran when it came out. I played the AVRE when it came out, and I made a video on the AVRE anyway. And yeah, it's the same story in World War II as it now is in Cold War, but I feel that in Era 3, it's gotten out of hand. It's out of control now. We have the Wiesel. When it came out, it was on its own. It was a solitary vehicle that was tough when it first came out. It was tough to deal with. It's still tough to deal with now, but you don't see as many of them. They are still about. But if the Wiesel were a solitary premium, it would be this issue wouldn't be as prevalent, I don't think. But what's happened is we've got the Wiesel, and then we got the 292. Well, actually, we got the 477 first because that was on sale. You actually had to complete this season to get the 292. So we got the Wiesel, then we got the 477, and then we got the 292. The Wiesel breaks all kind of tank design criteria, or the tank design triangle of armor, maneuverability, and firepower. The game has concealment, and the Wiesel has all three. It has firepower, it's got maneuverability, it's got armor, even though it doesn't look like it does. It does because it bounces shots that it shouldn't. And it's got concealment, and it's tiny. It's an utterly absurd vehicle, but when it was on its own, yes, it was frustrating, but it was on its own. You still, if enough of your friends got together, you can deal with a Wiesel. And, you've all seen the games at the end where everybody's just chasing down that one Wiesel. It's frustrating, it's a ridiculous vehicle, but it was on its own. What we have now is this FV4 to 11 mindset, which you're seeing right now on screen, right here. A 292 that knows he can just YOLO straight at me because he's got a gun that he doesn't need to aim, and he'll do 700 and something damage because he's got 900 millimeters of pen. Fortunately for me, I managed to outplay him, but it's not enough because the Type 90 gets me in the end anyway. And the games I'm showing you here, I played these back to back to back. So that's the premium side of the game we've talked about. The next thing to talk about is the way in which teams play in Era 3. Now this is a unique issue to Era 3, I think. In Era 3, every tank has mobility. And with mobility comes the opportunity, I suppose, to forget all kind of tanking skill, tanking tactics, whatever you want to call it. All you need to do is look at where the biggest blob of green is on your minimap and just follow them. You don't need to know where the weak points of tanks are. You don't need to be hull down. You don't need to play corners. You don't need to side scrape. You don't need to know anything about your vehicle as long as everybody just YOLOs as a pack. And that is exactly what you're about to see here. Now my team has spread out, which personally we're covering all 3 accesses to the cap, but that doesn't matter. You know, our team is evenly spread, defending the base as is required of us, but that doesn't matter anymore in Era 3 because all their team needs to do is stick a 477 at the front like that. All their team needs to do is just stick together as a pack. And the problem with this is Wargaming are putting maps in the game that enable this behavior. The maps encourage this behavior. And the way I see it is Wargaming can't stop people playing a certain way. There's no way of saying, no, you can't play the game like this. But what they can do is take away the maps that encourage it. A good example is Nebelberg. That map you can't run as a pack because it's a big map, and running as a pack like that just wouldn't work because you're all too visible. All these maps that are tiny, like Mountain Pass there, where everybody can just run around one flank and not be seen, not get shot, nothing. Those are the maps that are the problem. Era 3 needs bigger maps, and we've got to take these small maps out because games like that require absolutely no thought process at all from the enemy team. You don't even need to think. You just... It's just utter madness. It's an absolute shit show. It's the only way I can put it. But anyway, that is the way the teams play. Now, this is the 4th game that I played. No, 3rd. I played 4 games. This is the 3rd of them. And this again demonstrates the issue we have with the premiums that we've got in the game at the moment. And I will admit, at this point, I was hoping to get an ATGM off down the road there at the guys that are sitting further back, but it wasn't to happen. It wasn't going to be that way. My mind instead switched to, okay, I've got a 292 here, which is just going to go straight through the front of me because why not? I can take the AMX-40, so yeah, okay. Now I can sort of, maybe I'll side scrape a little bit here. I'll play tactically. I'll use this bridge for cover. I'll peek just when it's necessary. I'll have a decent fight on my hands. Let's see what we can make of this. That was my thought process at this moment, and then I realised, oh no, it's 292. It doesn't matter, now does it? It doesn't matter, and he knows it. This guy knows it. It doesn't matter. Just come round the corner. Just auto-aim me. Just pull the trigger. Oh, you're dead. Oh, back to garage for you. These tanks enable this behaviour. And I, for the life of me, cannot work out why Wargaming thought this was a good idea. These tanks may have existed. Fine. No problem with that. But they need to operate in-game in a balanced manner. And before the folks at Wargaming start looking at their numbers and their spreadsheets going, well, actually, it is balanced. It's like, well, But it's not though, is it? That's not how this game is meant to be played. And wargaming, you guys know that. You know, the reason you put armor values in the game and the armor's angled and all this stuff is so that the game can be played to the tank's advantages. But then you're putting premiums in the game that basically negate everything. Absolutely everything just goes out the window with the 292. Everything goes out the window with the 477. You don't need to think about when you're using the 477. You just park your ass there. No one can pen you. It's absolutely crazy, and I'm lucky there to bounce the little Wiesel. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, there seems to be a bit of a, I don't know what you want to call it, a bit of a wargaming. You're on some kind of kick at the moment, some kind of trend where, you know, we'll introduce the Taran because that's a good idea. We'll introduce the AVRE because apparently that's a good idea. We'll introduce the Wiesel because apparently that's a good idea as well. 292, 477. It's, when is this going to end? At what point is the game going to be... It's almost like, at what point is the game going to take itself seriously? You know? And it's a nice ammo rack on the Wiesel. Don't get too many... Don't get them very often. But yeah, that's kind of my question for all of this, is for the World War II guys, for the Cold War players, this is kind of a message on behalf of everybody. When is all of this nonsense going to stop? When is it going to stop? I mean, we've had big alpha guns in the game before, but there's always been a balancing feature. The 183, the Death Star, the Ship Barn, the Waffle, all of this stuff has, yeah, they can absolutely wreck you with their gun, but they've got no armor whatsoever. There's a balancing feature. The AVRE, massive frontal armor, and it will just blat everything with Hesh. The Wiesel will just sneak up behind you and you don't even know because you can't even see the damn thing, and it'll take your back end for 1200 damage. The 292 doesn't even need to... They just need to auto lock you and boop, there you go. There's 700 of your hit points gone because it's got 900 mil of pen. And I mean, that's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, I've had this where I've been trying to play a tech tree tank, for example, and you're like, right, I need to play this hull down because I've got a weak hull. And there's a 292 over there that just goes, oh, yeah, I see you. Boop. Straight through the front of your turret. And you're like, huh? What? Why? How is that a good thing? You know, how is any of this good? How is any of this benefiting the player base? I mean, the only people that like playing these tanks are the ones in them. And even when I play the Wiesel, I sort of come away thinking to myself, oh, that was a bit cheap, wasn't it? You play the 477 and, you know, you just know, oh, I can switch my brain off for a little bit. I don't really need to think that much when I'm playing the 477 because nothing can pen me, really. All you need to do is make sure that nothing gets behind you, which, you know, 477, nice shot apparently that did nothing. So... there you have it. I mean, I kind of want to know what's going on with the reason that why are we having so much of this nonsense? Like, where's the stability? Where's the stability with our premiums? Where is the fitting the mold of what this game is about? Where has it gone? What is going on with the premiums lately? That's my question, and I have no idea if we'll ever get an answer. I really don't know. So there you go, guys. Those were 4 games back to back. The first one was a very nice game in the Abrams, which was a defeat. The 292s wrecked us in the middle 2 games, and that one was a relatively game in the Merc, but we did ammo rack a Wiesel, so that's a win. I'll call that. I'll make myself MVP for that one. But anyway, yes, Will we get an answer from Wargaming on this? I have no idea. I'd really like one that isn't, well, nonsense, really. I'd like to actually have a concrete answer to this, but who knows? Maybe we'll get one, maybe we won't. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If not, a dislike. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you out there.